All right, so we're up to 7. Yay, welcome Denise, Isabel, Jay, Jessica, Jim, hey, Sherry, and Whitney. I'm going to get started now. I will let you guys know this is about a half hour. My name is Jennifer Broadwater. I am one of the 13 trainers or however many we have over at Workamajig. And I'm here today to show you guys how to use the new, well, not really not new, they've been around for a year, project change request forms. They are specifically used for one of two reasons. If I need to change the specs on a project, or I need to change custom fields on a project. So I'm going to take you through the process and show you the setup and the back end for this. And not everybody needs it. I would really say my clients hardly ever need it, but it's for if you need to keep things orderly. So if you are a project manager or account manager, and there are people that are changing the spec sheets all the time, where in the current process, you could basically either create a new spec sheet on that project, or someone can just come in and wipe out the information and just write over it, and you might want to not even know what the old information is. So we've now come up with this way so it could be, more orderly, and you can see the old spec and the new spec and compare the two. Or if there is, if you use custom fields, that will also show up also. So the first thing we're going to go over is some back end, and you may or may not have access to the back end of this, but and mid one. So for the setup, for the security rights, you do have to have security rights to do this. So I'm going to take you to the system setup security section just real quick. And I'm going to say, if you were in any of these groups, whichever group you need to change, which is most likely a project manager, but it could be all of them, you would need to go to, I think we can just look it up by change request. Should be 4 right here. So the first thing, I'm in the project managers, and if you want to be able to view, add, edit, or delete, you would mark these here, which I'm going to do because I don't know why they're not. Anyways, actually, and while we're on this, I'm going to go over to my clients and make sure that my client change. Oh, on clients, it's usually on the client side. I'm going to put them on both sides. So, somebody in the back end, okay, they're already checked for the side, because clients usually are the free users. But if there's any groups, which may be the creatives, maybe the creatives need it, just go to here and just put change request. I just want to make sure this is all set up, which I didn't check before this call. This is not my site. This is one of my coworkers' sites. I would not be Boba Fett, the villain. But I have to use their site today because mine is not quite working correctly. Okay, so, and I do want to also change this. While I'm back here, don't worry about what I'm doing right here. I just want to make sure this is okay for the demonstration, which is also, seriously, nobody set this up correctly. And one more, I have to check. All right, now the other place, so again, this is just for the back end if you are going to incorporate this. The other place you need to go to is the transaction preferences. And this is a fun little area that has lots of stuff to look at, but this this will be under the projects tab here. So if you click on the projects and you scroll down, there is 2 options, and I had one on and then I was checking it out and then I was checking the other one. So project changes, this is going to be made in one of 2 ways. If you are flexible and you allow people to just make spec sheet changes without requiring it, then you're just going to probably do this one, create a new version for each spec sheet. That means you would have the flexibility of people just changing it versus using this process of requiring a request change. So if you check this one, the other one disappears, because once you require this, it's automatically going to give you a new version each time. And if you just have this one, create a new version for each spec sheet. And I'll go through this, don't worry, it will get clearer as we go through here. Then you can make a new spec sheet and you'll be able to see what the old information was and the new information. For this one today, I'm going to require it so you can see how that looks. And I will also be showing it from a project manager view, from an approver's view, and from a client view, because there's different ways that this can be approached. All right, so I'm just going to save that here. And now we're going to go, in the very beginning, I said one of the things that you can change is actually your custom fields, and not everybody uses custom fields. So you can actually track if, I see this is the one I don't know how often people really need to change the custom fields, but I have project custom fields. And through this process, if I wanted people to change what mine is just the cost center, and the cost center, they may have said 22 and now they need to change it to 56. This process will allow you to change that if you want. So if you're using custom fields in the project and you want people to be able to go through a process to request a change to those, you can. Otherwise, people can just go into the project custom fields and make the change without any kind of form to be filled out. All right, so then the next thing is these, where are these found? These are in tracking. And these are definitely, I mean, you're going to need to already have had spec sheets and be using spec sheets to have this system work. So, you know, I have some spec sheets in here, and we're not going to look at that one because this was prior to, but these are the regular type of spec sheets somebody may have that's on a project, right? So if these are defined, now we're talking about, hey, somebody wants to make a change to them. So now we need to define the project change request form. And again, everybody might not have access to this. If you need access to this, go to an admin in your company and request them to allow you to set this up if you don't have this option. Again, because it's security right driven. So, but to set it up, and I have a couple in here already, and then I'll show you how to do one from here. It's basically you're deciding, and I'll go into this one, like, do we need to show the custom fields or just the spec sheets? So in this one, we're only allowing people to change the specs. We don't want them to change custom fields on this. So this is kind of like, we're going to be setting this up almost like a project request, if you're familiar how to set up those. Or even a deliverable almost goes through the same process where we have to decide who has access to it, who's going to approve it, who's going, and what things you need in it. So it's kind of a circular motion. In this particular one, just, you know, we're going to go through this process in a little more detail, but, you know, I only have an approver and the person, the account manager to notify, and you'll have some of these options, which you're going to do from base in a second. And then you'll have these options here to make some changes, which will look kind of familiar if you're using deliverables to the same kind of things, like what do you want that to say? What things do you want to show? So a lot of people would say they only need one of these forms. I made a couple just to show you, you could make as many as you want, but usually it's sufficient to just, if you're going to make a change request, you use this form. I can also say, you can separate it and say, I can have a special change request for only printing specs and a special change request for a different one. You know, it's up to you guys if you need separate ones or just one. I think one is sufficient for all users, but that's up to you guys. So we're going to make a change for, I'm just going to do a publication spec one, like specific for publications. And we're going to go back. I just check which ones I had in there that would work. So we're going to hit here and we're going to hit here. And you're going to be, hey, what do we want to call this one? Because I'm going to go specific instead of general, instead of like you might write general request change. I'm just going to do this one for publication. And again, your options here, the description is when the person opens it, they might want to read what this is for. Pubs. And then here, just like we do in the deliverables, you have options to, you know, state different things because different people are going to get emails as you do this. So hopefully you've become kind of familiar with this in other areas. If you don't like the word send for approval, I can write something else, wait here or something, and that's what would show up. Okay, so each one of these can be changed. This is the default amount of the words, and then you can replace it. This is the default, then you can replace it or just leave it. Now you want to show, this is that question where I said, do you want to use this for both custom fields and specs? You can have them both show. So you can use the same form for someone to change both. And again, I don't see much of a need for this one to be checked in most cases. I just usually say people want to just change their spec sheets. They need to go through this process. So I'm going to not even deal with that one right now. Now, these are just options. You would just decide, do you need to send an email to the requester? And the email is the one that says, a change request is blah, 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 has been sent to you. All right, wait, which one is it? Notify for approval. Well, one of these goes to them, and then use a default email. That's the person that is submitting it. Like if Boba Fett was doing it, would go to him. And then do I need to notify the project team on final approval? Do I need a message sent to everyone? Hey, after we approve this, there has been a spec change. This is probably a good idea, but I will tell you when there are, and you guys probably already know this, your task cards will show when there's a change to the specs. There, you'll get that little red one on it. I'm not going to go over to that page right now, but if on the card itself, if there's some new update to the specs, you can get to it from there and you'll be notified of that anyways. But if you want actually everyone on the team to get an email saying the specs have changed, then you can do it here. Otherwise, the only people that get emailed is the person that you hit on notify, which we're going to set up in a second. So I'm going to save this. Participants can now see your screen. Well, I'm hoping that you could have already seen my screen. I just got a message telling me that if anyone has problems seeing my screen, sorry, let me know. All right, so this is the first part. We've already basically we just did this, but you could come in and still change it. So this is done. Then the access automatically goes to everyone, but you can come through here and say, oh yeah, we don't want our IT people doing this or something like that. And you can arrange this to who you need access to. So I just took them out and I could add them back in, but it's done by security group. Then this part, if you do deliverables, this is going to look real familiar. So the approval process is, you can have as many steps as you want. So if it needs to go through more than one, great. I would say most people are sufficient with just one. And you may enter this kind of just like a deliverable, approve, or step one, or whatever you want to call. And you may have instructions. Please look at these specs and approve, or whatever you want to say. Now, this is, again, very similar to deliverables. You would need to have an approver. Obviously, this needs to go through something. And why is Boba Fett not on here? Oh, because I'm in contacts. How about I go to my staff? Not Baby Yoda. All right, so I'm adding myself as an approver to show you this. And then the notify, just like on deliverables, when this is approved or denied, who needs to be notified about this? Well, in this case, I'm going to be notified, but it would typically be, somebody else on your team, or it could be a whole bunch of people. Oops, and that's so. And it can be staff, it can be the client, it can be whoever. Obviously, you'd probably want to. The notification will automatically go back to the person that's requesting it anyway, so they don't really even have to be in this notify section. Then when I started doing this, you'll notice just like a deliverable, it starts giving me some more options down here. Do I need to send it? If you guys are all familiar with, do I send it to everybody? If there was a couple approvers on here, do I need to send it to all the approvers at once? If there's multiple approvers, do I need to send it in order? And do I need everyone to say yes or no to this? I would say 95% of my people are just using one approver anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But if you do want to have multiple approvers and just send it out to everyone that have this, then whoever gets to it, they'll all get it in their bill, they'll all get an email, and whoever does it first, it will disappear for everybody else. That's the way it works. And how long do you want it to be for this step? When somebody wants to make a change, meaning somebody requests it, and we'll look at it from that side also. When somebody requests it, how long do you want to give them to approve it? This here is important because in Workamajig, if you're familiar with deliverables, if you send out a deliverable to someone who doesn't have a sign-in, it will open it up in that person that sent it, which is odd to me, but that's the way it works. So we usually suggest, except I don't have to because I'm just myself, that you do have everyone log in. Now, if you are sending this to an approver you wouldn't really want the client to be approver. Never mind. Skip whatever I just said. Just say everyone must log in. It's probably a good idea. And reminders. I can send out daily or hourly reminders if I'm trying to have someone approve this new spec sheet. If I want reminders, I can have that set up there. So this is should be a little bit familiar to you guys as that. Now I could have a second step and do the same thing. And after it was approved by Bubba Fett, then it can go to, my other supervisor, Baby Fett or Yoda or whoever, if I want to. But this is good enough to show you guys. So I'm not going to add another step to this process that's already kind of complicated. Now what we can do, I was going to step right back here because now I never did show you this. So this is the defining of this. And if you want to, you can have additional fields into this that you may need to add to the information. So I just made one and that says extra information because I don't really know what else you would do, but you can click and make your own field. So this again is like your setting up of your spec sheets. You can make all your own fields or your project request forms or whatever. They're always like giving you the option to add new things. So if I wanted to say, let's see, field name, more fun. Oh, I have a question. Hold on. Caption. Oops, I can't do this. This is a fun. I forgot that you can't use fun stuff. And I will answer your question once again. Fun stuff. So, and I want you to see how this pulls through. So you have options of how this pulls through. I'm going to give you a multiple checkbox and 1, 2, 3. So whatever your options is, and I will hit save. And it pulls it here, and then you drop the field over here. So if I needed this kind of question, now let me check this. Hi, thank you for this. Can we have a change request to a project request? No, the project, yeah, that's a good question, Ahmed. This is only for going to change the specs, not the project itself. So I know it's confusing because it almost seems like it should be a project change request, like I'm changing the project itself. You're not changing the project, you're changing what needs to be on that project. So sorry, no, it won't go for the project request, only for the specs that were open. Any of the specs could have been open at the time you did a project request, the specs would have been on there. So in essence, you're really just changing the specs on the project, and that's all it allows you to do. All right, so now we have on here how we're going to set this up. We have a couple of one custom field on here, and now it's basically ready to go. So I want to show it to you from the project side and how this works. So we're going to run through this. I'm just going to take you to the project. I have already done one in here, so I didn't have to go through the whole request part, but I will show that to you also. So I have one that was put through last night and one that was approved. So I'm going to show you how it looks from the person that's requesting it also, but I just want to let you know when a person then pulls up the specs after this happens, I guess I should not have done this step first, that you'll have 2 versions when it's approved. You'll have your version 1, that was the first things that we did on there, and then the version 2. So this is how it's done from the requester. So it could be done from one of your clients, or it can be done by an internal employee. So if it's from an internal employee, they should be on the project. And this project currently has, obviously you would have, where's my spec sheet? Oh, some people use spec sheets over here and some have them over here. So I was like, oh wait, mine never moved over here. All right, so there's specifications that are already on this project. Oh, questions, sorry. Like a creative brief. Yes, you can do the creative brief. Creative brief is very popular one that people are using. So yes. All right, so to say this already had some specs on it and somebody is like, yeah, we need to change these. Maybe the client calls and said, I need more, or I need to get different materials, or whatever they say that tells you. I can come in here and change or add a spec sheet from this based on if I needed to add a new one. If I'm looking to change this publication spec sheet, the process then would be is to do a request. I kind of wish this was right next to this, but it's not. This deliverables isn't here. But this is the process. The person would be like, okay, I need to change these publication specs. And they would come in here and say, I need to request it. And guess what happens? Oh, here's the subject and a change. Then they would be I need more, whatever they need to write here, but don't worry, those questions are going to come up for those specs. This is that additional question I added in. Again, not necessary, but I wanted to show you that you could add in something else on this is the front page. But then we get down to the specs. So you've answered this, you've decided what this is. And this is the part where they say, here are my specs currently, and I need to change them. So the person, in order to change them, needs to go to this pen. And they need to be like, oh yeah, I'm changing this to spot color, and I need to change this to 500 by 8, whatever. And whatever ones I need to change, they would change the information by erasing it and saving it. Right? So now it's revised. I mean, it's going through a process now. The next step, so they're only seeing this and what was revised. And now that you could have attachments to this if you needed to, but basically at that point you're submitting it and you're submitting it. I know I'm the same person, but I'm going to be submitting this and then you'll see it from the other side is there's where those words, you could have changed this if you wanted to. Emails go out. Boba Fett gets an email. Boba Fett has to refresh his page to see this. Oh, look. So you'll get, Boba Fett would get an email. Boba Fett will also be able to go, oh, what's in here? Oh, look, it's a change request. Woohoo. And they'll go, I'm so excited. What's going on here? Right? I try to make it exciting for you guys, hopefully. And so here's where the information is. I need more. So what you'll see, first of all, is this is the version 1. The publication updated information is here. So you're going to see the prior, which is here. I'm sorry, I don't know what I was saying about that. The prior information's here, and here's the new information here. And you're going to make a decision about the changes that need to be on here. This is pretty self-explanatory. You can see it, you can see it. And the good news is you can resubmit and you can make a comment back to them why, which I'm not going to do. I'm just going to show you the approve part. And I'm the only person that needs to approve this. So I'm going to approve this and then show you, what happens next at the project level. So I'll hit approve. It is great. Whatever, you don't have to make a comment. All right, it's been approved. See, now it says approved. So at the project level, again, I believe that on the task cards, if this has gone through that you'll see the new chat. It's working. Oh, okay, good. I don't know, somebody wrote that, but maybe I don't know what that was in reference to. Okay, sorry, sidetracked on the thing. All right, so back to the project. It was this one that I just did, right? Two specs, yeah. All right, so once it's been updated and that change request has gone through, the spec sheet itself will again have 2 versions on it. So when you look at the specs, you're always looking at the version that's the most recent one, but I can come over here and see the old one still. Well, and also it displays prior value. I mean, I don't know how many times you need to change something, but this is really nice so I can see the specs from here and there. So let's see. The specs are there. The change request was approved was here, and that will stay on there too if you needed to, view who did it and all that kind of information here, which really just takes you back to the spec sheet that was updated. So again, the approval process can be one person, many people, it stays here. Let's see, what else can I tell you about these exciting things? You can have one or many different ways to do this. I think one is sufficient for most people. I also want to show it to you from the contact way. So if you find that you are using your clients, so some people have their clients sign into Workamajig, right? And they can do stuff on the projects. If you've allowed your client to do this, so if I allowed Bart Simpson to do this, I want to show you how it would look from his side. And this is a short thing because I'm almost done already. I'm going to log out as Boba Fett for a second. And I'm going to log in as my client. So you can see it from the client side. Simpson. All right. What is this? Chrome found your password is a data breach. Okay, let's not look at that there. I don't know what that was all about. Okay, cat circle. Here it is. So you're on this project. they can request a change here. I already did this earlier for somebody else, but it's the same thing. They're going to pick, like they're going to have it a little bit different. The reason I'm showing it from here is because, it looks a lot different from the way that you would do it versus the way your client would do it. So your client would need to look at okay, so typically the client would be like the person who had originally gave you the specs. There's already 2 in here. This is also security driven. So, if you have to give the rights to your client to be able to see spec sheets and to be able to do this before they can get to this point, they can see both versions that are already in there, and maybe that doesn't make them happy. And they just need to make another version. So that's when they would be like, oh, okay, I need to go ahead and do another one. And then they can go ahead and do another request, or maybe they were doing one, and they see the same questions, and then they have to come in and open this up and write over or change these options again back to something else. And whatever they want to save. So the process is the same. As soon as they try to do this, they still have to go through and then submit this back. Again, they don't choose who's approving it and all that. That's been done in the back end. So they've submitted it, right? They're making another change, and we'll go back out of him, go back into, oops, F. And the process is the same. I should have a change request. Oh, look, another one. I wish I could make this more exciting, but it's really not. So now you're getting the information of the publication specs that he's changing again. And here's my new one with the AAA that I changed and right? So it's the same thing. You approve it, it gets on the project again. And now you have 3, right? So that's it. Questions. I know you have to type them in, but I'd be happy to, if you, have questions right now, here's the time to ask them. If you want to get with your account manager to set this up for your company and need help, that's support@workamajig.com. Otherwise, I'm not getting any questions. Was it that easy? It was easy, right? There wasn't much to it. Just the backend setup, deciding it's all in the admin manager, and not every client needs it. Some would say, do I really need this extra layer? I don't know. Do you need this extra step? Can we just take this by phone and make the change? But I think that one of the things is making that first decision in your transaction preference under those projects right down here. Maybe if you don't want to require the change request and just create a new version so you can see the versioning, that may be sufficient for a lot of you, where you want to compare the 2 specs and you don't want to overwrite it or make a new spec. You just want to adjust the spec, but be able to see what you adjusted, because that could be changing the scope of the project. Most of the time people are using these project change request forms for the specs because they are changing the actual time it's going to take to do this project, and it's going to change the budget and everything else falling forward. So, it's just depending on your office if you want to require it or just create a new version. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming today. Again, my name is Jennifer Broadwater at Workamajig. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and take care. All right. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, there's a chat. I'm not going yet. Oh, great. All made sense. Good. Thank you. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know, because I can't hear you guys if you are even listening to me. But thank you so much for coming. Okay. Bye-bye.